Hello everybody, what's going on? Thank you for tuning in. Today we have an interesting video for you. We are going to be talking about the World Dio stand from Stardust Crusaders versus King Crimson, Diavolo's stand from Vento Ario or Golden Wind, whatever you want to call it. I'm of course joined by Mr. Ichibuti. How are you?
Hey, what's up? What's up? We're all
And
good here. I'm a little bit stressed, but we'll figure it
so Sir Booty over here is going to be representing Diavolo and King Crimson. I am going to be
out.
representing Dio
Yeah.
and the world. So would you like to lead?
Okay.
Would you like to go first?
Uh, sure.
Okay.
But um, I would like to start with a comparison in strength, if that's okay with you.
Absolutely.
Um, so I'd argue that King Crimson is objectively a stronger stand than the world. Simply because of his many feats, as in chopping and punching through people with like absolutely no problem, and even throwing a knife so hard that it severed Risotto's right foot from quite a distance. So that was one of my points.
Okay.
So would you like to elaborate on Dio's?
Sure. So I do want to point out that in destructive power, they're ranked equivalently. Both have A ranks in destructive power as their stand
Mhm.
stats. Uh, I think that while King Crimson has a lot better feats when it comes to an unarmed opponent, it has really zero actual combat feats, whereas the world trades blows heavy with Star Platinum, like a lot
Mhm.
in their fight. And King Crimson doesn't really fight other stands too much. He pretty much just nukes the stand user really fast and then gets nuked really fast at the end of Vento Art. He never really has a full on battle. Risotto, I guess, is the closest that you get. I
Yeah.
think, yeah. And I mean, the world obviously doesn't have any problem killing people, as our good friend Kakuin, may he rest in peace.
Hmm. I know.
The original donut
Yeah.
that King Crimson was
Yeah.
inspired by, and so he based his whole plan off that. See, so I think that
Well,
he,
yeah.
yeah,
Go on.
if he is stronger than the world, I don't think it's by very much because I think it would be hard to argue
No, no, no,
that the
no.
world is objectively physically superior to Star Platinum. And I think the world is close enough to equivalent in that regard that I think it would be hard to say that he is really superior
Well,
to either
yeah.
one.
I think mostly because King Crimson's ability that he actually never had to fight anyone seriously before, but that still doesn't take away from his strength. Like even being on par with like the world at least.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah. I
yeah.
think that you could definitely say they're equal in power, but I don't know that I co-sign that he is objectively stronger than the world.
Mm.
I would lean toward
I'd
it
say that.
being a roughly equivalent offensive power. Their stance stats are the same. They both can donut dudes, no problem. I think the only one that's really impressive for King Crimson that the world never does is the knife throw that cuts off Risotto's foot, like you
Yeah,
said. Like that's a big one. But
that has to be. I mean, technically, if you look at it, compared to like Dio, he threw a bunch of knives to JoJo in time stop, but he had to do a bunch of knives and they didn't completely go through. So that's a big factor for me. That yeah, that King Crimson, like not even with Diavolo controlling him, was able to throw that fast with that much power.
yeah, but you got to remember where they got hit too. Is that Jotaro got hit in like the core of his body. He didn't get hit in an extraneous limb. And also, if you want to,
Hmm.
I don't want to keep
I think
assigning.
it was hit. I think it was hit with a knife in the head, wasn't he?
He was, yeah. He took one sort of in the head,
Yeah.
like grazing
Yeah.
wound to the head. Um, I don't want to. Well, also Dio was throwing those, not the world. So, just
Well,
gonna
yeah.
a kind of small caveat
We'll
there.
just
But I don't want to assign all of Star Platinum's strength feats to the world because I don't think that's fair. But I do think that they,
yeah.
given
Right.
that they are, similar, that you can account that they're close because they constantly get oh my god, they're the same type of stand, so their power is the same.
Hmm.
You gotta remember when Star Platinum hit Dio so hard that he flew down a street, like in the air,
Yeah, yeah.
all the way down at like a good distance. I don't know if they ever gave an exact distance, but that was a serious blow. And then you know what? I'm not going
Mm.
to keep going into Star Platinum because I don't think it's fair if I just say Star Platinum does all this, so the world can do all this. So I'm going to stop there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. There's
Um,
just different. No, 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 no.
yeah,
It's completely fair because even the author himself said that they were like copy stands almost.
right,
They're all the same type.
right. Because I mean, Star Platinum
So
has stuff like when he breaks the diamond teeth, and there's a lot of offensive power in both of these stands going out for sure.
yeah, but I'd say there's more that they have to put in almost.
Right.
Isn't that? No,
So here's
like
where
they
I
have to
think the
put
difference
in
maker
more.
comes in. And this is the part that I know that you have already been thinking about, and you're like, oh shit. Uh, is the
Hmm.
durability of the stand users is very different.
Oh yes. Well, here's the thing. Diavolo himself isn't really that durable, I'd say, but the the years of using his stand quite quite like intelligently has provided him with more of a living chance. So I mean, yeah, obviously he's gonna lose against a vampire, but I don't know. He might have a trick up his sleeve, like the thing I discussed with you before. Like he even in his time erasure, he can still splatter blood on someone's face and
Right,
distract them that way.
right. So the issue with the durability discussion is that both of these are more or less these are one hit kill stands. The only reason
Hmm.
realistically that Jotaro beat Dio was like because he needed to, right? Like
Yeah,
what
yeah.
both of these stands are they're kill stands. And
Hmm.
King Crimson's preferred method of killing somebody is either he donuts them or he does his little shoulder chop that he does to Bruno and he tries to
Yeah.
do to Polnareff. Neither one of those are
Mm.
sufficient kill shots on Dio. Now, that's not to say that he couldn't kill shot Dio because he could if he did that and went for the
Yeah,
head instead. But he
he could
doesn't,
still
there's,
incapacitate him.
right. But there's nothing to me that says he would know to target Dio's head, that he even knows what a vampire is.
Well, yeah, I guess, but I mean, think about it. Somebody bought the arrows in Egypt from Inyaba, so I'd have to say that he at least knows a little bit about it,
Well, I know
like
I know
where
that
the arrows
he
have been
he
and
sold
stuff.
them directly to Enyaba himself.
Oh yeah, that's right.
But I don't know
Yeah,
that
but I mean,
Enyaba would
he
have
had to
ever told
have.
him about Dio. Remember when Jotaro and Joseph and them said, "Hey, look, we're
Hmm.
not going to kill you, but you need to tell us about Dio." She would rather have been eaten by the flesh blood than tell them anything.
Hmm. That's true. That's true.
And though it is technically
So it's kind of weird.
non-canon,
Yeah.
I do want to point out that you can decide how admissible you want this to be because it's from a dubiously canon source. But in
Hmm.
Over Heaven, Dio points out that he has heard rumors of Diavolo existing barely, like he just figured out about it. And so he said
Hmm.
after he finishes with the Joestar group in part 3, he's going to look into him. So that they are
Hmm.
barely known to one another, if at all, if you take that as a legitimate source.
I mean, I'll count it. I'll count it. It's fine. So also, yeah, yeah, Diavolo doesn't really, in terms of durability and like use of his stand, he doesn't really have a lot of experience like Dio, who has existed for ages.
Right.
So I
Yeah,
think
and I
that's a
think
little bit
that
of a Achilles heel.
yeah, I think the biggest factor in Dio's favor is just that a kill shot on Diavolo is a kill shot, and a kill shot on
Mhm.
Dio is not. I think that's the
Yeah,
even if
it's
because these are
incapacitation.
assassination style stance, like because that's the way Diavolo likes to fight. Is he
Mhm.
wants to fuck with you and then he's gonna put his fist through your chest and you're gonna die. And
Yeah.
Dio is the one opponent other than like Cars or a Pillar Man that's not gonna work on.
Mhm.
Whereas Dio, you know, he stopped
Well,
time
I
and he
would,
donuts Kakyoin, and that would also kill
yeah,
Diavolo.
but I would also argue the final fight between Jotaro and Dio. Like without the time stop, even I think King Crimson would have sufficient chance to incapacitate him if Jotaro was able to with a Star Platinum.
And that's true, he did, but
Mm.
Jotaro was also educated by Joseph on what a vampire is
Yeah,
and what he needs to do. He knew to go
yeah.
for his head immediately. And he
Mhm.
had the added benefit of being able to move in Dio's time stop, which I am going to hold that I do not believe Diavolo would be able to do.
Mm. I mean,
Because remember the big incapacitation time where Dio can't move, where he manages to shatter his skull and
mhm.
Dio can't stand, is that he actually stopped time, but Jotaro had the couple seconds of movement that it wasn't able to stop it. So in that instance, I think
Well,
that
yeah, but
Diavolo would not have been able to land that blow.
well, the Avalo wasn't really able to attack him in the first place. But I mean, he might like get him by surprise if he does that blow thing I talked about. But other than that, there's not really an argument I can give
Yeah,
that
when at least in durability, I
yeah, they
think
can make him
Dio
win.
has
Yeah,
a clear win
he has
there.
an advantage. Yeah,
Yeah.
he has an advantage.
So the next thing I want to go to,
So yeah.
if you will permit me, is I want to talk about
Hmm.
the actual abilities of the two stands, because obviously
Hmm.
King Crimson's is a little confusing to some people, hence the "it just
Yeah, yeah.
works"
I
meme.
can. Yeah,
Obviously,
yeah,
do you want to go into King Crimson's exact effect slash effect ranges?
King Crimson has an effective range of 2 meters. And I've looked into this. He doesn't really come close to Dio's, which is like 10 meters.
For
So,
those that are curious, by effective range, he's referring to the range of his ability
mhm.
affecting a per. Well, actually, I don't know how much I agree with that, because
Well, look at all the times. Look at all the times like King Crimson has activated. It's
right,
when
and then
someone was really close.
Giorno, who was outside the building, still noticed the effects.
Mm.
So I'm not. I. It's strange because we never see either one of them used that much in a position of like, hey, look, there's Dio and he froze time, but I'm 10 meters away, so I'm looking at this stopped bubble of time, but I'm okay. We never see the
Mm.
world in the same position as King Crimson. I almost
Yeah,
want to say the effective range is more going to be, can he injure you with his ability within that range? Because I feel like King Crimson's
exactly. Yeah.
effect is the whole world. It would have
Well,
to be, right? Like, why would Giorno
yeah,
feel it outside if it was only 2 meters? And I'm arguing for the wrong side here, but it's definitely.
yeah.
I don't think that the actual time skip itself only has a 2 meter radius. I just think that
Mm.
you would need to be that close for King Crimson to death blow you with that ability.
Yeah. But then there's another contender that jumps in because King Crimson's not the only stand he has. He also has Epitaph, which changes a whole lot of things. Um, because I think Diavolo would be able to see Dio use his time stop. When you agree?
Meaning that he could see with Epitaph that Dio was going to do it.
Yeah, and then
Yes.
try to stay as far away as possible and do the knife stuff he did to Risotto
Well, the only reason he was able to do the knife stuff to Risotto was that Risotto made the
because he didn't
knife.
expect it. Yeah.
Because he didn't have a knife on
Also,
him.
he didn't expect it really.
Risotto,
Yeah.
yeah, well, yeah, one, he didn't expect it, and two, the knife was actually generated by Risotto. That's the only time we see King Crimson, either of his users, for obvious reasons, use a weapon, is when
Hmm.
one was provided to him. Otherwise, I think he tends to fight just stand only.
Yeah.
Now, I
Yeah.
guess,
That's
you know
kind
what?
of.
No, I'm not going to say
But
this because
yeah,
I'm tired
yeah.
of arguing for King Crimson. I'm not arguing for the other team anymore. Um,
That's true. That's true. Um, yeah. Also, like Dio is a creative guy, so I don't know. Maybe even if King Crimson had a chance at it, I don't know.
I do think that you're right that Epitaph could
Yeah,
see that the world was going to happen, but I just don't see what he could do about it. It's not like, oh, he's going to swing with his right fist, so I'm going to move out of the way. It's, oh, he's going to stop time, and then I'm going to not be able to do anything because
yeah. I
time has
mean,
stopped.
he could still use Epitaph to at least stay out of his range because I
Yeah,
think
I mean
on
he could get out
speed,
of
yeah.
Dio's range, but Dio has a higher effective range than King Crimson. So if he's playing
Mm,
Runaway and trying to stay 10 meters away from Dio,
yeah,
when
there's a
is how is he going
problem.
to be able to turn it
There's
around?
a problem. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
That's a problem. uh, yeah. Also, the ability to fly would also be.
a good thing for Dio.
Yes, that too.
I'll counter for this argument. A lot of people say
It's not really fair, but it is. It was shown in Stardust Crusaders,
He
so it's
does it.
fair.
And I mean it doesn't only happen in Stardust Crusaders. Gold
Hmm.
Experience Requiem also allows Giorno
Yeah.
to at least
Also, King
levitate
Crimson
if
does
not
it
fly.
too in during his ability. King Crimson is able to too.
So
Hmm.
it happens.
It happens from time to time. It's just that Dio and Jotaro have
Yeah.
the most practical application of it when they fight one another.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
You want to talk in terms of speed?
So speed is an interesting one. They're both about the same rating wise as well as they're both A in speed.
Hmm.
And it's hard for King Crimson because we never see him really do an attack rush that I'm sure he should be able to do. Every stand can do it. I mean, Gold Experience is not
Yeah.
an A in speed, I don't think, but he's certainly able to do it. So I don't see why King Crimson wouldn't be able to. But again, I think the big contender here is the fact that we've seen how fast Star Platinum is, and so we roughly know how
Yeah.
fast the world is going to be. Star Platinum was fast enough to catch a bullet that was in a gun that was point blank against Jotaro's head.
Yeah. A few centimeters. Yeah.
Hmm. And he was able to catch
So,
it. And he was able to catch a
mm,
bullet that entered Jotaro's skin before it went any deeper than the skin.
hmm.
But then again, you have to see. Are we going to count like Star Platinum in Part 4, where he was caught off guard by Crazy
If
Diamond?
hey, I say if it happens, it counts. But I don't know that. Well,
Yeah.
so speed
I
is
mean,
weird when
Crazy
you.
Diamond wasn't really a fast stand as well.
Yeah. So what did
Um,
Josuke say his speed was? It was about 300 kilometers an hour.
Yeah, something like that. And
Not
yeah,
particularly very
Jotaro
fast.
was caught
Yeah.
off guard. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's
So
yeah, that's fair.
mm,
I think
it's
a
kind of
big thing
difficult
there though
to.
is it depends on how hard you agree with the whether you canonize Araki's interviews slash his summaries of events. Because
I mean,
if you agree
if
with
you really
if
if you
we
really took it seriously, he
yeah
says Star Platinum is the strongest stand. So,
yeah I mean
I mean,
if we legitimize his interviews as factual to the serious word of God or whatever you want to call it,
mm,
Star Platinum in the world can punch at the speed of light, which uh,
hmm.
I think they don't do that on screen very
yeah,
clearly.
no, not at all.
They definitely do not do that. So it depends on how much you want to count the interviews. I'm a little bit hesitant to because I don't usually like that,
Yeah, 'cause
and I don't really like because people will do the
it's
thing like
usually yeah.
Kishimoto said
He
in an
often
interview that
stands.
Naruto was light speed at 14, and I'm like, no,
Yeah,
he was not.
yeah,
And the same way, Star Platinum clearly isn't punching at light speed when they're fighting. And obviously, if he was doing that, he would be able to just, completely murk Crazy Diamond with no problem at all.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah,
But also the fallacy is like authors they can't really, especially Iraqi, you can't really remember what he said most of the time. So
right,
he says one thing and then contradicts it in like a next interview. So it's not really credible, I'd say.
right. Stand speed in general is tough though because
it is. It is.
so let's say
Because there's several factors of speed. It's like
right,
movement speed, it's like fighting speed.
and I think
It's all
movement speed, fighting speed, and also the movement and reaction speed of the stand user, which also I believe there is at least some degree of argument that Dio would be at advantage there as well, simply because he's superhuman.
yeah, yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Because especially in the
I
early
mean,
fights with
especially
Jotaro, Jotaro is completely on the defensive pretty much the whole time.
Hmm.
he has to
Um,
run. Like he has
he,
to actively run
he
away
has to
from Dio.
run and he has to keep,
But then
playing
again,
possum to trick him into getting hit, or
yeah.
he
But then
never
again, we
actually
didn't really.
overwhelms him in a straight one-on-one fight until close to the end.
Yeah, but then again, we didn't really have a good look at Dio's speed
Because he was in the cab the whole time.
Yeah, that too. Um,
Yeah. It was kind of a yeah.
kind of. It's just hard to. Yeah.
I,
What
for
about accuracy?
Accuracy. So both of
Oh,
these are
let's get into that one.
King Crimson has. This is probably the area that I think King Crimson has the best feats with. He was able
Because
to.
he's like really able to
Well, one, he
accurately.
can literally see the future,
Inflict damage in his
which
armor.
is advantageous.
Yeah,
But I think
which
the
is
best accuracy feat for him is bullseyeing the scalpels at Sticky Fingers from across the island. Not across the
Mhm.
island, but that was a good distance for him to have chucked the scalpel at Sticky Fingers. Granted, Sticky Fingers was able to catch them, so again, speed in JoJo is weird because he was able to throw a knife so hard that it cut off Risotto's foot, but he couldn't throw it so hard that Sticky Fingers couldn't grab it out of the air. I don't know.
Mhm.
Speed is funny, but he was
I
still
mean,
able
this
to
is
get them, yeah, across that distance accurately at
yeah.
Sticky Fingers. And I don't know that the world really has anything similar to that. I think the closest you can really get is Dio throwing the knives
Yeah.
at Jotaro, but at that point he threw so many knives that accuracy was not relevant.
Yeah, it was not a
He was
problem.
gonna get hit no matter what. There were knives everywhere. Um,
Mhm.
I will
Yeah.
say that I think good accuracy feats for Dio in the very beginning are him just landing blows on Star
A bit
Platinum when Star Platinum is
problematic,
not
yeah.
able to keep up in the beginning.
Mhm.
So again, it's hard to say.
Yeah.
It
Well,
depends
that's also
entirely.
difficult, yeah.
Yeah, it depends entirely when you're talking accuracy if you value Dio's battle experience over the individual feats of King Crimson, because again, King Crimson
Mhm.
doesn't have a whole lot of battle feats, whereas Dio,
No, no,
I
no,
think
no.
Dio's accuracy is more applicable, because again, he's fighting a stand roughly
Yes.
equal physicals to him, and he's able to
Well,
land blows
also,
on him before Jotaro's able to return any.
if you look at earlier parts, like part one,
Even if you count that, like Dio's combat experience
Yeah,
vastly
absolutely.
outnumbers Diavolo's. So
Yeah, because again,
yeah,
Diavolo is a lot more, and I think this is a trend
he's
in part
used to
five.
winning.
Yeah, he's a lot
He's
more
just
of an
used to winning. He's just
assassin
used to
style
not.
fighter.
yeah.
He's not a fighter. His power just kills you like that. If you don't have the ability to control
Mhm.
time, his power is that you die, and that's
Mhm.
basically the same with Dio. If you can't manipulate time yourself, then you just lose. Um,
True.
the
That's
difference
true.
is that Dio, one, he's been in positions where he's actually had to fight before, with of course the Hamon users and Jonathan
Multiple
and all of
times.
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
and two, we see him fight Jotaro and be on the winning end most of it. I think the closest to
Mhm.
a direct fight King Crimson ever has is when he's fighting healthy Polnareff, and
Yes,
I mean he
but
minces Polnareff.
that wasn't really a contest.
No,
Well, actually, was it ever mentioned in that fight that that Silver Chariot took off his armor
no, I don't think
to
that.
fight
No,
to
I
fight
think that
him?
pretty much just shows him swing, and then King Crimson appears behind him, and then he goes, "Oh my God, you're crazy,"
Well,
and
yeah,
then he cuts his legs off.
it was really a contest.
No, I mean he gets completely
He gets the
murked.
bad end of
Yeah,
the stick. Yeah.
yeah, he gets destroyed. So no, I don't think there's any. And Silver Chariot definitely has the best speed feats of any stand. I think.
Oh yeah,
I
yeah,
think
yeah.
Silver Chariot is the closest you
Silver.
can get to realistically arguing
Yes.
that Star Platinum and the world are light speed, because he has
Mhm.
the only light speed feat in the show.
Mhm.
Only when he pops off his armor though, which makes him more vulnerable.
Was his armor off when he did that though?
Yes.
It was.
Yes.
Okay, I
He
didn't
has to
remember
take
if
off his
he.
armor and then yeah.
Okay, did not remember if he had taken the armor off when they killed the Hanged Man.
Mhm.
Okay, so true, his armor does need to be off. But again, he's only marginally faster than Star Platinum when that's happening, because he's dual wielding swords and fighting Star Platinum at the same time, and Star Platinum's losing, but he's keeping up.
Yeah. Yeah, that's not really. That's really an admirable feat.
Yeah, I think that's big.
There's no. There's. I'm having trouble because there's not a whole lot to say about Diavolo's battles.
Right, yeah, well, because again, the nature of Diavolo's
Yeah.
stand is that he doesn't have to fight if he doesn't want to. And it's the same with
Mhm.
the world, is that if he, like with Kakuin, he's stuck in that
I
net, and he's
think.
like, okay, I'm gonna not fuck around with this anymore, because he was just fucking with him. And then he started
I
getting
think
irritated, and he said,
Diavolo.
fuck it, I'm gonna kill you. And that's the same thing that Diavolo does, except
Yeah.
Diavolo never enjoys the fight.
Because he doesn't want to
Because he doesn't want to fight,
Reveal his
right, he doesn't
identity.
want to.
Yeah, yeah.
And Dio kind of gets that
Kind of like your.
blood nighty where he kind of likes it.
Dio doesn't stop until everyone's dead.
Pretty much, yeah. Dio wants to
But
kick the shit out of you, and he's happy to do it.
Yeah, a problem. Like I personally believe that Diavolo really suffers from a funny Valentine complex, where he gets like too cocky with his powers, and then no matter how powerful it is, he eventually gets stomped anyway.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think Dio is kind of the same way, but then again,
Mm.
it's hard to argue that Dio is overconfident when he spends almost the entire fight with Jotaro being so overly cautious that he made any mistake.
Yeah. I mean,
So,
Jotaro is just basically scanning the fight to see what Dio's weak points are.
right, and every time he has Jotaro knocked down, he's so overly cautious about like, I'm not just gonna walk up
Mm.
and try to kill him. I'm gonna cut his head off with a sign, or I'm gonna have the cop shoot him before I know, so I know
Oh,
he's
I
dead.
forgot. I
Yeah,
forgot to mention this. I forgot to mention something.
go ahead.
Are we using Dio pre absorbing Josa's blood or
That
post?
was I was gonna
Because he
assume that
had
we
a
were gonna
power
use
boost.
pre blood absorption because it wouldn't be applicable in this instance unless we were saying that Dio won Stardust Crusaders.
Yeah.
Um, and also
Well, if he
he's
won,
stronger,
we would have had a different argument because he himself said that his stand wasn't even complete yet.
right? And that he didn't have
And
his powers. Again, this is dubiously canon, but in Over
Mhm.
Heaven he mentions that he does not have his vampiric abilities yet because he can't use his body properly. So
Mhm.
he can't use the
Yeah,
Space
because he
Ripper
has to
eyes, and he
adjust his
can't.
body.
Right, he can't use his freezing. And if he once he did, he feasibly could use those things. So I think that
Mhm.
pre blood absorption is the better way to go. Also because that's where the majority of his feats come from.
Mhm. Definitely.
Um, so we talked about
Yeah.
speed, we talked about power. Uh, do you think
Accuracy.
accuracy? Do you think in any way that the mentality of stand users is relevant?
I'd say so because it dictates the actions of their stands.
Right. So
So their entire mindset. Yeah.
right. So what do you think? Do
I
you think that
think
Diavolo gets any advantage in
personally,
that way?
no, because I believe Diavolo is more of a careful fighter, and Dio is more of a all in your face kind of guy. Because
Right.
he isn't really afraid, and he doesn't have a lot of weaknesses compared to Diavolo. So I think Diavolo is probably going to be more concerned about his own safety
Yeah,
than
I definitely
Dio.
agree. I mean, you see that really early on when he fights Bruno,
Mhm.
whereas that he should have been able to pretty much steamroll Bruno if he wanted to, but he hung back and just kind of avoided him until he was
Mhm.
able to land that decisive blow.
The donut.
Yeah, until he was able to donut, and then he gave him both. Bruno got the double
Mhm.
treatment of the Diavolo 1-2 punch donut shoulder chop that he always goes for.
Mhm.
Um, and again, like
So
I just don't
yeah,
know that that's
I'd
going to
say
matter against Dio because those are not kill hits against him.
Dio is he was kind of scary because he was basically ready to like kill himself just to kill Jonathan.
Yeah, well, okay, so his regen
Yeah.
in part 3 is not as good. So I'll say that outright,
No,
that I will
no.
concede that his regen is not as good because in part 1 it was
Of course not, because
ridiculous.
Jonathan fucking sliced him through the head, and
Yeah,
then
he
he
sliced his head completely in half and he just stuck his body back
yeah,
together.
it's
Um,
insane.
yeah,
It's
he
insane.
was his regen was stronger, but it was still good in Stardust Crusaders. He had a completely severed leg
Oh yeah,
that he
yeah,
just stuck
definitely.
back
And if
on.
even if you count it as like a canon thing, if you look at, uh, I mean, this isn't really canon, but it's more of an example. In Eyes of Heaven, when he finally does achieve over heaven and such, uh, when Giorno tries to punch him in the face, and he basically, oh no, it was Star Platinum, and he basically just recovers from that shit.
Oh yeah, he gets the same skull crush that he got in Stardust Crusaders, but he completely just
Yeah,
walks it off. Yeah.
yeah.
Granted, he's super amped at that point, so it's not
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
hugely applicable, but the regeneration is still there in a big way,
Mhm.
even as the regular Part 3 Dio.
Being able to recover from a fractured skull in Stardust Crusade is still pretty impressive. I don't
Right, yeah, it took
think
him a little bit,
Diavolo's
but yeah, I
gonna do
mean,
that.
right. And then again, it's can he even die? Because the big argument that I've had people say is, oh, King Crimson will skip time and just break Dio's skull, and the Dio can't do anything. But like, is that even enough to kill him? Because it didn't fucking kill him in Stardust Crusaders. So would King
Well,
Crimson have to shatter his skull over and over again until
King
sunlight became
Crimson,
relevant? Because I
it,
assume we are either indoors or we're outside at night.
yeah,
Because otherwise the fight can't
I
happen.
would, yeah. Um, well, if it's inside, there's also a possibility of open windows with sunlight. So that's a big factor. It's all like
Yeah,
nitpicky stuff.
yeah. At that point, we're
It
we're
just
going so far
depends.
down the speculative rabbit hole that we
Yeah.
would have had to
So,
have basically built an arena ahead of time. So I'm gonna go
but
ahead and say that as far as
there's still a
Battlefield goes, we should
possibility.
we should consider it similar to Stardust Crusaders. They're fighting at night, so
Mm,
there is
there,
a time limit, but it is not
there
exceptionally
is a
quick.
very, very, very small possibility of Diavolo decapitating Dio and keeping him that way until sunlight arrives, but I'm not going
And then
to
we
go for
go
that
right,
path.
and then we go down the
Yeah,
rabbit
that's
hole
too
of can
far.
he use the world as a head?
Yeah, that's
Could it
That's
still
another
work?
argument.
Because I think
Hey,
the
that
issue is
might be
that
a
we see
future video.
him.
How about that?
Yeah, that'll be a future discussion. Could part one Dio where he's just the head? Could he still use the world? Um, because when Dio's skull is crushed by
Mhm.
Jotaro, and he can't stand up, he can still stop time.
Yes. I mean,
I
So
assume, yeah.
yeah, he does. He can do it because he literally does it. He does it to get away up to crawls to the car.
mhm.
So he can still use his stand. So the question is, like the deck is, in my opinion, just so stacked against Diavolo in actually being
Yeah,
able
it really is
to
because
kill Dio.
yeah, it's not really fair.
Like
When
yeah,
you
I
look
mean,
at
let's
it
say he
from a game
literally
perspective.
yeah he cracks he uses his ability, shatters Dio's head. Dio's completely caught off guard, and then the time that Diavolo is able to use his ability again, he just keeps shattering his skull over and over again.
Hmm.
But Dio can still stop time in the intervals. So
Yeah.
I mean, how many repetitions of that is Diavolo going to have to do to last hours until morning? Whereas
Pretty like a lot,
a lot
and
because he's only skipping a few seconds every time.
stands around on fighting energy, and that's not really limited.
Right. Yeah. And
That's not really unlimited. That's not really
right.
unlimited, I want to say.
And I mean, you
So,
could go the route where I think
mhm,
the only, in my opinion, this is kind of arguing for you for not really, but not really, because I'm saying
mhm,
basically that I think this is the only way that he could ever win, is the way that Star Platinum incapacitated him by incapacitating the world. But
mhm.
Diavolo doesn't do that. He
Well,
never
yeah,
once goes for
yeah,
the
he
stand.
can. Yeah, that's also an argument, but
So I think that you could argue he could have attacked the world similar to what Star Platinum did and
mhm,
shattered him, and that seemed to cause lasting damage to Dio long enough for them to put him under UV
mm.
until the
But that
sun came
Also
up.
raises the question if it matters if it's the same type of stand like Star Platinum or if
True,
it's just any stand that can
true.
do that.
Um, but again, like
Also, a thing we
Diavolo, I don't
could
think he's ever struck another stand user's stand. I think I don't. He
no,
may have, but I
I
don't
don't think
recall a
so.
time he's ever
No,
done it.
the only thing I can recall a stand user being used against another stand is Kakyoin against what's his face? Uh,
the guy who basically makes Jotaro do a bunch of shit. What's his name again?
Oh, Steely Dan.
Yes, yeah, Steely Dan. That's the only thing. How
Yeah, I
can I
mean, well,
forget
they
that? But that's
stands can
yeah,
definitely kill other stands because that's
yeah.
that's basically how they win most of their fights in Stardust Crusaders is they kill the stand and that translates to
Mhm.
the stand user getting killed.
But that was the only yeah. That was the only moment I can arguably say that a stand was used against another stand.
Um, but like
We
I'm
could
trying
also
to think of
talk about
times where Diavolo himself like has stopped time and then punched sticky fingers right instead of
mhm,
Bruno, and I can't think of one. He usually just well, and it makes sense that you wouldn't because obviously you'd go for the flimsy wielder instead
mhm,
of the powerful stand.
yeah.
But it's just that everything that Diavolo knows
I
about
can
fighting is not applicable to Dio. It would be the other way around.
exactly. Yeah, it's a little bit of a
of a deeper discussion.
Right.
that's just really really nitpicky. But yeah. Also, a thing we could discuss is
How long the intervals between
the both of their abilities last.
Ah, that's a good point too. Okay. I actually don't know
because I
how
think
spammable that King Crimson is.
I don't think it was ever stated if Diavolo could spam this shit.
If that is true, though,
He stands a very good chance, but it's not mentioned anywhere, so I'm not holding
Right.
my breath.
Yeah. Again, because the only time he has an actual full-on fight where it would be applicable, he doesn't even use King Crimson at all. Um,
Yeah.
I want to say that it's not spammable because if it was, he when he
mhm,
killed
he would have
Narancia,
done
he
it.
would have
He would
killed the
have
rest
done
of
it.
them. Yeah.
He would have done it, yeah.
Yeah. The world is
I,
also definitely not spammable, but the
yeah,
interval is
that's
not too bad.
I think it was, what was it, like
I want to say something
two
like 30
minutes or
seconds,
something?
but I don't know again.
Seconds. Something seconds.
It could be 5 seconds for all I know.
I think the he doesn't ever do it, back to back or anything like that, because again, he could.
Mhm.
He he
Yeah.
treats his ability differently than Diavolo does as well, though. Whereas Diavolo, the ability is his plan. Like he's gonna go in and he's gonna use his stand power, and then you're gonna die.
Mhm.
Whereas Dio uses it like it's a technique, like it's when it's applicable. So
Well, that's also an argument I want to make because Diavolo could really quickly shift his motives because of Epitaph.
that's true.
Yeah. So it's really difficult to put the two of them against each other because
One is going to play defensive all the time and look for an opening, and one is going to relentlessly chase him until he's dead.
Right. And that's definitely a big thing. So another stand stat that I think is interesting is
Mhm.
persistence. Um,
Ooh.
yes. So this is what, for those that don't know what it is, because it is kind of a weird name for it, is it's the duration of time that a stand can be active and maintain its own ability. So
Um.
for King Crimson, his ranking in persistence is E, which is for those of you that is awful. It's very low.
Mhm.
Dio's persistence ranking for the world is A. It's the highest possible.
Mhm.
So
But that's also because Dio had to adjust to his body and use his stand longer and longer and longer and longer.
right,
So he kind of evolved his stand throughout the years. So I mean, it's just not fair. It's just Dio's game at that point.
yeah, I think that between actually, let's talk about, because I think that for now we talked about the physical stats and a little bit about the individual abilities. But let's talk about, do you think that the abilities would interact in any specific way? Because I don't. But I've
I
seen a
don't.
few people try to
No.
argue that when Dio stopped time, King Crimson could react and skip it and then put them back at neutral. And I don't know that that's realistic because no one's ever really been able to react to the time stop and do anything. The
The
closest
thing
you get
is,
is Jotaro, but that's because he has some movement time and he's
but the
conscious
thing,
during it.
yeah. But the thing is, like, I don't know. Epitaph also plays such an important role because it predicts when Dio is going to use his time stop. So I'd say so.
So
Diavolo could
that's true.
react
That
before.
I didn't consider that
Yeah.
Epitaph could allow him to line something like that up. Like, oh, it's
Yeah.
about to happen now, so let me skip the time now, and then we'll just end up at the other end. But let's say
Mhm.
that he does that, and Dio's not able to stop time because King Crimson skips it. Well, they
Mhm.
both have to wait before they can use their ability again, and then
Mhm.
Diavolo is sitting there with
They
a
do.
super vampire with one of the strongest stands of all time in his face, which
I'd
is like his
assume.
worst case scenario because he's not a fighter.
Yeah, I'd assume that Diavolo couldn't really find Dio's weak spot anyway because Dio is like an enhanced vampire,
Yeah, Dio is
basically.
definitely the strongest vampire that I at least as of like part one Dio, I would argue is more or less equivalent to a Pillar Man in terms of the variance of his abilities because of
Mhm.
the ice and
Definitely.
the eyes and everything.
Definitely.
Part three, I
Definitely.
don't think is really the case because he's much weaker in terms of his vampiric ability, so it's not 100% relevant. But I think that if, let's say, Diavolo is skipping the time stop, and that would nullify both of their powers. That's the thing, is I don't think it's an advantage, even if Diavolo can do that,
Mhm.
because he has to use all
I
of his
mean, even
power
if
uses.
Diavolo could,
Go ahead.
yeah, even if he uses it once, then
Right, because
obviously the world's gonna win because he has a lower like recharge, I
right,
guess.
yeah, he's got a worse persistence stat, and then also
Hmm.
even if he's able to do it every single time, I think the world has so much better combat feats that he would easily win in a one-on-one just throwdown.
Hmm. Definitely.
So yeah, I don't know. Like, could he do that? I think that it is reasonable because again, I keep forgetting that Epitaph exists.
Yeah,
I think that it's reasonable he could line that up because he could see that
he
right
could,
when he's about to do it and then activate
but
his at that time. But I just don't think
even then, it's
it
gonna
helps him.
be,
Yeah.
yeah, not really. He couldn't even attack, but like he could pull a Dio himself and do the thing with the blood, but I doubt it really help a lot.
Because once again, Dio's an enhanced vampire with like enhanced hearing, enhanced feeling,
Right.
enhanced sensing, and all that.
Plus, the blood, to be fair, was from an open wound on Diavolo's arm that was already bleeding.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah, but
that would require Dio to injure him in
still.
a non-fatal way, which I think that if either one of these guys is getting hurt, it's because the other one went for a kill blow.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think
Definitely.
Diavolo's going to go for,
But it's
his
a
same donut,
possibility.
and Dio's going to do the same thing. It's just that Dio can survive that.
Most likely, yeah. So it's not looking. Yeah, it's not looking good in Diavolo's favor.
Right. I mean, part of the discussion, and a few people brought this up when I announced that we were going to do this, is that it's kind of unfair because Dio is so, as a character himself, is broken. He's the only stand user that nullifies the weakness of being a stand user, right? So stands are super
Mhm.
strong, and they've always been kind of counteracted by the fact that they have these squishy idiots that if you kill them, they lose.
Yes, yes.
Dio is the
But
only one to
also,
go
the
around that.
fact that Dio is objectively stronger than every stand user because he has all that experience over the years mastering
Right.
the stand. So yeah, it's not really fair
Yeah, I
to
would
compare
lean
between
toward
anyone.
it being not a fair fight. I think that's just like,
Mhm.
I think in terms of JoJo villains in general, there's not too many that beat Dio. I think Cars, I mean, at the very least, it would be a tie. Because,
Ultimate Cars.
well, I mean, I don't know that Ultimate Cars has the destructive output to.
Ultimate Cars is still alive, even
Yeah,
in
I think
the
that. Well,
universe. So
actually, I keep forgetting that the Pillarmen can fucking eat vampires by touching them. So yeah, I get, yeah, Ultimate Cars would win. If you take away the
definitely
eating, I think that you could argue they would just exist in perpetuity, fighting
fight
forever.
each other.
Yeah,
Yeah.
till the end of time. But because he can eat Dio.
Mhm. Well, not forever because obviously Cars is resistant against sunlight and Dio's not.
Oh, that's true. So Dio would get hit by the sunlight and lose. I
Hmm.
think you could argue that Valentine could win um,
Against Dio.
with Love Train.
Well, yeah, definitely
Yeah,
because like just like as we saw in Over Heaven, like Eyes Over Heaven, one of the ways ultimate like Dio Over Heaven is beaten is by using one of his rings in part 3 and throwing it at him.
right.
So
Um,
yeah, Valentine stands a chance.
yeah. Plus, Love Train is super broken. But
Hmm.
I just don't like King Crimson is also super broken. But I think he's slightly before the era where Iraqi villains get really ridiculous. Like
Yeah,
Poochie, yeah,
Poochie, yeah,
really
yeah,
ridiculous.
Poochie.
Pookie. Both of them sound funny.
Poochie's
However
not
you
even.
pronounce it, are both funny. Poochie's like a little dog. Uh,
Well, not even that. Like even Weather Report is like
yeah, Weather
he's
Report's
not a
crazy.
villain, but he's just
Yeah,
you
and of course, Dirty Deeds Done Dirt Cheap plus Love Train is
know.
absurd. Um,
Yeah, and then it kind of tones down again in part 8, I'd
yeah,
say.
yeah. Part 8 is much more grounded than the ones before it. But that
Obviously,
makes sense though, 'cause I mean it's a mystery story.
yeah.
It's not a battle
The
shonen.
strongest one I'd say is like Poor Tom's because he can create an entire vacuum.
Yeah, I mean, Soft and Wet's kind
Yeah.
of busted too though.
Soft and Wet is extremely busted. That's why I
The
wanted to make a video, but I never did.
Yeah, I think the combine. Well, I don't want to say that because that's going to spoil it for people who haven't read Part 8. But there's two different soft and wets, and Josuke is really broken. The other one, I don't know.
Josuke's really well. Josefumi's Soft and Wet is basically just the bubble ability to take something away and put it somewhere else. That's
Right,
the only thing.
right. Yeah,
But
like the
when
combination
when
in
he merged
Josuke's
with
soft and wet is pretty wild.
mhm. But wait, what was the video topic again? It
Yeah,
was
exactly. Yeah, we're spiraling here off topic. Basically, I think we've looked at all the
Mhm.
variables, and I don't see
We've
how
looked at
Dio
all of it.
loses here personally.
Dio wins in more situations than yeah.
Yeah, even if we say
So
that he can lose sometimes, if we're doing it out of 10, I think he wins more than 5 out of 10.
definitely, it's 8 versus 2, I'd say.
Okay, yeah, I'll concede that it's feasible. There are ways that King Crimson could win. I just think they are much less likely than him
And they
never getting hit
require
by
a
Dio
whole
ever.
lot of
Yeah.
work
They require a
and,
whole
and
lot of
pre-knowledge and luck. Like sometimes you just have to get
Yeah.
lucky. And I don't think that Dio has to get lucky. I think he
Mhm.
just has to be himself and he will win.
He just has to be Dio.
Yep. As is tradition, the best way to do anything is just to be Dio.
Exactly.
So there you go, everybody. That's our findings on
Alright.
the subject, is that we do believe that Dio would win. Um, I definitely feel like some people are going to say, well, duh, he's a vampire. That wasn't fair. But I think that the
Well,
world
yeah,
is
but that's what
also,
these discussions are for, you
yeah,
know.
I think the world is also has a good shot. I think all the villain stands in JoJo are about equally busted. Any of them could beat
Well, then
anyone.
we should do these more often.
Yeah, hey, I'm always down for stuff like this. This was fun. If
All
people want to
right.
see more of these, we'll make a format, where we have a bit
Yeah,
more of
let us
an
know.
organized discussion, and we'll go through part by part and decide what you guys like. But thanks everybody for tuning in, and of course, thank you to Mr. Ichibuti, my guest.
You're welcome. It was a lot of fun.
I will put his Twitter description his Twitter link in the description of the video. So please do check him out, throw him a follow. He makes some awesome graphics and stuff, and he is
Aw.
as big a JoJo head as me, if not more so. So you're in good hands
Mhm.
if you want to talk JoJo with somebody.
Sweet.
All right, we will see you guys later.
All right. Peace.